Welcome everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to complete all three challenges from my records tutorial. So the first challenge was create a program that can define, so we're going to define a record with students with name, age and grade, and we're going to prompt the user to enter the details for a single student and then print out the details. So as I showed you in the tutorial, you have to create records or structures outside of the main subroutine. So we're going to start by saying public struct, and we're going to call this student. So as you can see, I have created this structure outside and above the main subroutine. It's not going to work if you put this inside the main subroutine. So it's going to be outside. So in the structure, we need to define a name, an age, and a grade. All three, no, let's put two of them as strings. So the name and the age is going to be, the age is going to be an integer, because you may want to increase or decrease that by 1 as the student gets updated later on. So it makes sense if we put that as an integer. And the string we'll put as a grade. Well, the grade we'll put as a string, I'm sorry. So public needs to be in front of all of them, otherwise the main subroutine will not have access to the student structure. So public and one more public. There we go. So all of these are created as per the instructions, and now we need to prompt the user to enter the details for a single student and then print out the details. So please enter a student name, and we're going to say string name is equal to console.readline. It's absolutely fine if I'm using the same variable as these ones in the structure, because these are technically different variables. We'll ask for the age and the grade, so I'm going to say, no, this one is the grade and this one is the age, and this should be changed to an integer. So we got the name, the age and the grade. This one needs an int.parse, otherwise it's not going to work. And there we go. So we got the three inputs. So to put these inputs into these variables here, what we're going to need to do is create a new student variable type. So instead of saying string, say student1, we are going to say student1. So I am creating a student variable type, essentially. And then we can say student1.name is equal to this name here. Now this may seem a little bit confusing because of the way I've named these variables. So let's change these variables here to say input name, just to make these variables a little bit easier to read, so you're not getting confused with which variable is which. It is fine to actually put those variables the same because they do not clash with these variables, but just to increase readability, I'm going to do this. So we're going to say name, let's do the other two as well, age, and I've said grade, it should be grade. There we go, and grade, and that grade those there, and that should be the age. I'm going to put that as int age. That should be input age. And there we go. So that is challenge 1 done. So we can input all of the students' name, age, and grade, and input them into the actual structure. So let's write them out. So we're going to say name is equal to student1.name. Now I know this seems a little bit pointless, I'm just doing an extra step for variables here, but it's always good to know how these work because you may need them to store something like a database. So if you're importing a database, the easiest way to import a database is into a structure, because you can match all the fields from a database into a structure. And there we go. So we're going to enter a name, blah, blah, blah. We're going to enter an age, 44, and we're going to enter a grade. They've got an E, and forgot to actually console.read key. So we're going to do that one more time with the read key. Try that again. The name is Dwadwad, and the age is 55, and they got an F. And there we go. So I did actually put name 3 times, so we're going to fix that. So that should say age, and that should say grade. I'm not going to test that again because we know that works. So that is challenge 1 complete. So challenge 2 is slightly different. We're going to create an address book with first name, last name, email, phone. And this time we're going to create an array of contacts and allow them to add 3 contacts. Let's use this one. So we'll do address book. So we're going to say name. So we're going to change that to first name. Let's add a surname. What else did they want? Oh, I closed it down. So email and phone. So we're going to put the email in a string. Now you may think the phone would be, so that should be email, not string. So you may think the phone would be a integer. It wouldn't, it'd actually be a string, because a phone number usually starts with a 0. If you put a 0 in an integer, it would actually just remove that 0 from the beginning of the integer, and then it's no longer a phone number. So it's always better to put phone numbers into strings. So from here, let's get rid of all of this. We don't need any of this. Let's use this to get our inputs. So we want to create an array. So let's create the array first. So the array would be done very similar to, say, let's creating a string array. So what would I call an address? Like people? Contacts. So let's call them contacts, actually. So contacts equals new string. So that's how I would create them as a string array, except I would like to create these as an address book array. So an array of address books. And I would like to create 3 contacts in this address book. So we're going to slightly change these inputs. So we're going to say, please enter a first name, and we're going to get input name. And I think I'm just going to skip the steps of getting them to the input and then putting those inputs here. So what I'm going to do instead is I am just going to say contacts dot first name. Let's match the capitals of this. So contacts first name, and then let's start with element 0. So that's going to be putting it into element 0. So why isn't that working? Oh, spotted my mistake. So we need to put the element here, not after there. So contacts element 0 dot first name is equal to the read line. So let's use this for the others. So this one is for their surname. You don't need to capitalize surname for that. So let's use that. So the surname equals console.readline. Please enter a surname, and we'll do the same for the email and phone number. So this is for the email, and this is for the phone number. So that will put them into each of the first elements. So we can use that and put that in a for loop to do for every element. So we're going to create the for loop starting at 0, ending at the length of the contacts. We're going to place all of those inputs into the for loop, and instead of putting them in the first element, I'm going to put them in the I element. So I there, and I there, and I there. So that's going to loop through all of the address book, so all of these contacts in the address book, and add all of the user inputs to these variables here. So it's going to add them 3 times essentially. I might not print them all out because that might take a while. So Actually, no, it shouldn't take that long. If I just put nonsense in there, I could write them out. So if I do this, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, if I do this for all of them, yeah, let's not be lazy. We're going to actually test it out and make sure it works properly. So we'll do that for the first name, the surname, the email, and the phone number. And we'll grab, as you can see, I like to copy and paste quite a lot when I'm coding. It saves a lot of time. So what I'm doing here is I'm double clicking on a variable. If you double click on something, Control C copies, double click on this part, Control C paste. Makes it very easy to actually change little bits of the code quite fast. So you can see I double clicked on that and I can then change that to email. Double click this one here and change that to phone number. If you triple click something, it'll highlight the whole row. If you double click something, it'll highlight that specific word. Little tip for you. Alright, I'm just going to put utter nonsense here just to make sure it's working. Phone number. Oh, there you go. A little bit too fast, but you can see 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see that works absolutely fine. So, final challenge. Challenge 3. So, modify the program to get the user to choose a record to update. So, get the user to input either 1, 2, or 3, and then use an if statement to choose that record. So, we've allowed the user to input the records. So, let's put a little comment here. But what if we wanted the user to change one of the records later on? So, again, this is our print records. Now we are going to use this in a second. So there we go. So we're going to print the records, but we're going to ask them, what would you like to, so which record would you like to update? 1, 2, or 3. Now you have to remember that it's actually like record 0, 1, and 2. So whatever they input, we're going to need to reduce by 1. So we're going to go int, let's call it input record equals int dot pass and the read line. So that's going to allow them to input the record. I'm going to then reduce that by 1. Equals minus, so minus equals 1. So that will reduce the record by 1, and that means we can then simply add that. It does say if statements. I think we don't even need to use an if statement to choose the record. We can simply use the input record. So I probably wasn't thinking when making that challenge there. That's a much easier way to do it if I just use the input record instead of using, if they input 1, make sure they do 1. So that should actually work much better. So to test this out, easiest way I think to do it is let's put a single letter in each of the first one. So we're going to put A's in the first one, B's in the second record, C in the third record, and then it's going to ask, one more we need, then it's going to ask what we would like to update. So I'm going to update 2, and we're going to update 2's to D, 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 D. And then the next line should print out all of the records. So you can see that's record 1, A, and record 2 has been updated with the D, 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 D. So that is working as intended. I did not need to use an if statement. That's probably a bit of a waste of time if you get them to an if statement. So that's probably the easier way to do it. And that is it. So if you have any questions about how any of that works, please let me know in the comments. If you like that video, give this video a like. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.